Hello and welcome to DCS 2.9, where today we're going to be taking a look at the latest version and doing a performance test with the RTX4090 series graphics card. We're going to take a look at it on various maps in both single and multiplayer and see how this game performs. We are starting on the South Atlantic map using the F14 for the simple reason that we reviewed this map only the other day and there were a lot of little micro stutters on it, and so we're going to see if things have improved. I've got the Task Manager graphics card overlay there, and so let's go ahead and begin. And so as we fly here, definitely the performance wise, I mean, it was smooth before. It was just, there were a lot more stutters before, especially, you know, when we were going up and down. So let's try that. So let's raise up. Every so often there's this little weird, and again, it doesn't seem to happen once we're a little higher. Coming back down, I'm just going to bring the power back because I'm very low on fuel and I don't want to have to reload. Coming back down again. There's a very weird effect I noticed there with the shadows. Very, very weird. As I turned my head, or as the aircraft was sort of panning around, you know, the view, let's say, of the shadow, there was a weird twist. I'm just going to try and demonstrate that again. There we go. Look at the shadows on the hill. And as I turn my head and twist the aircraft, you know, it's sort of both things happening together. There, look, as I move my head. Can you see the shadows down there? That is an unfortunate effect. We will take a look at the settings, but just real quick, if I just hide that temporarily, so you can see the settings clearly. It's on 4K, and everything there is pretty much maxed out. There are two major exceptions. Antioscopic filtering 8 versus 16. I don't find there's much benefit going up to 16. I have motion blur off because that's just a choice for me. I don't like motion blur. Depth of field looks very good for your cinematic kind of stuff. I find it is a big hindrance under normal DCS conditions. So really, if you're making, you know, DCS cinematics, you know, that's one that you may want to enable. All right, so I'm going to cancel that and I will bring my Task Manager back on. And I'm just going to speed up time a little bit. And for those wondering how I do that, it's Control Z to speed up time, Alt Z to slow time down. And this is just to give you a little idea on the various heights. I'm just going to turn the heads up display brightness down a tad. Just a little bit too much. And again, as we go up high, frame rate wise, you see now the stutters are all but gone. Shadow wise, those weird twisty shadows are not great. Now again, I've got DLSS on balanced. Maybe if I turn it onto the quality setting, things will improve. So here we are, low, can't get much lower than that, and climbing, and does not appear to be anything like the stutters we observed before. Let's try that again. Let's pick this one here. Coming down nice and low. Going up. Speeding up time. The stutters appear to be gone. And again, this is great because I only played this like 3 or 4 days ago to do the review, and there were non-stop stutters, and that was on version 2.8, whatever it was. This is obviously the first public release of 2.9. Coming down low, lots of trees. Let's get a little, don't want to be too close. Let's get a little external shot this time. And up. I like the shadow effects there out to sea. But again, that weird, as I'm twisted my head, and there's this weird sort of weird effect where the stabilizer was adjusting the shadows there. And there we did see a couple of little pauses. Let's just come out of this altogether. Exit. And I'm going to come over to the settings. I wonder if I can actually do it without reloading. And so let's change this now to quality mode. Okay, great. We don't actually have to reload, which is brilliant. And what I'm going to do is let's just keep things fresh and mix the aircraft up And let's try this one just because it's something a bit different. And just for a bit of fun, I'm going to try landing on it. And the Mosquito, why not? Skill player. Just, I guess, heading this way. How high is the land here? About 200 feet. So I'm just going to drop the height down. A couple of thousands will be nice. I'll change the airfield to Allied. Let's also mix the weather up a bit. So let's go ahead, overcast and rain. And let's give ourselves a little bit of a quarter in headwinds. What shall we say? Just 5 knots, 10, and then 15. And as it climbs up, it can go to 20. There we go. Something like that. We'll give it a little bit of turbulence just to put a bit of life in. Set to 100. All right, let's save. Or let's not save, rather. Let's go. And again, this is all unedited, so as you see, it's, I'm going to leave the loading times in and everything, because that's a huge part of it. I remember when I first flew DCS, and I always had a solid-state drive for DCS. I never didn't. And it was at a time when a lot of people still use a regular hard drive, and they were telling me stuff like it would take them 5-6 minutes to load into a multiplayer server, and I thought that was, I found it difficult to believe. And then obviously I'd keep reading this. Oh, wow, I've just upgraded to solid state so much quicker. And I never realized that was an issue. By the way, did have a comment the other day saying that perhaps one of my solid state drives was a bit slower, and that's why, which in fairness, it is an older solid state drive, so maybe it is. And perhaps that was responsible for the little stutters. I think today doing this genuinely natively in 4K with 2.9 shows that the stutters are all but gone. And again, it seemed to be a feature of the South Atlantic map. I'm not saying other maps didn't stutter once in a while, but this one, for whatever reason, stuttered more than the rest. All right, let's have a little flyby then. In the rain. Got the silhouetteness there. Got to remember to move my head over due to the graphical overlay there. I want to keep that running. Got the nice fire engine effect there. I wonder if that's where the Spitfire name kind of came from. In any case, somebody's saying, well, duh. And there'll be somebody else saying, well, actually, the inventor had a granddaughter who used to like playing in some... I don't know, some theatrical thing, and she had this part where she would spit this fluid over the fire, and that's where it I don't know. Any case, here we go. So let's just try putting her down here. But as you can see, frame rate wise, appears very nice. Just gonna go ahead to put the sounds on a bit, and as I'm changing between low and high, the major stutters that were problematic no longer seem to be quite so bad, do they? This aircraft, maybe it doesn't have a pilot, this one. Alright, we do have split throttles, which is great, because having propellers on the front of the wings instantly creates or dissipates lift, depending on increasing or decreasing thrust. And I think it's the only aircraft in DCS, aside from, like, if you're hovering the Harrier, that's obviously one. I think it's the only aircraft in DCS where changing the power setting has an immediate effect on the amount of lift being generated. I think. So somebody will say, oh, what about the Huey then? I hear you. Alright, let's go for it. Max RPM, idle thrust, we've got the gear horn warning, which is not on the radio channels. Alright, bit of power on then. Let's start. Oh, forget this one. You can't dump the flaps. You've got to open that pull that little hatch. There we go. It's about 10 degrees. Flaps, let's go ahead and... Come on. There we go. Gear getting dumped. Power on. That was not the best approach in the world, was it? Dumping flaps all the way, 4 reds. 4 reds means everything is going good. Those that say it should be 2 white, 2 red don't know what they're on about. Bit of a crosswind, forgot about that. Oh, there we go. And the turbulence at 100 definitely giving us a little bit of a test, but in any case, there we go. And coming to a nice quick stop. So yeah, give us a bit of a workout there on late finals, but otherwise a lot of fun, and no stutters there whatsoever, or very, very few. Seem to be very good. And again, this here with everything set up. So what I'm going to do now is I just wanted to see actually if the shadows was still doing that weird thing on the quality settings. All right, there we go. But I tell you what, man, that really does look good. Let's go ahead, get rid of the task manager overlay. There you go. That does look nice, man. All right, let's have a game of chicken and hope that when we dive through the clouds, we're not going to run into the mountain peak. In fact, I can just about see through the clouds there. Oh, my chicken game didn't pay off. I was trying to save a bit of time. I'll teach me. So again, this is DLSS on maximum settings. And I'm looking at the shadows, and there's one over there. As I turn my head. And so it would seem that even on maximum settings, that there is this weird shadowy effect that that can't be gotten rid of. Now, if I turn DLSS off, will it still work? I don't know. But again, there you see the shadows up there. So as I roll the aircraft around, you can see just weird, you know, now the full mountain peak suddenly was in shadow. And again, yeah, this is a good area to demonstrate this. You can see shadows coming and going. And again, I hope this is something that DCS can work on. So there is that. One thing I wanted to highlight, and this is, you know, nothing to do with the map, and I think I'm going to switch map to sort of try and prove that. Let's go to the Marianas, because this was, you know, not only a free map from Eagle Dynamics, but was basically a map to test out some new technologies. At least that's what they were saying at the time. So we'll go ahead, load this one up. I remember about 2 years ago, or maybe even more, it was when they were teasing the new clouds, but they were also showing the new fog effects. And you sort of saw fog in the valleys. Well, here we are. And again, when I say 2 years, you know, I'm sure someone would say, well, actually, it was 18 months. Well, all right, you know, hold your horses. What I want you to see here is they haven't finished it yet. So if we come into the weather settings, and again, what I'm going to do is just, you know, pick overcast rain. I'm going to bring the base down to such a way that if I turn fog on and give it max thickness, you see the thickness, in other words, from the floor upwards, the limit is 3,200. So if I get the base of the clouds to match, there we go, with, in theory, so the bottom of the clouds with the top of the fog, in theory, are meeting. I mean, we can actually go beyond it, so we'll see if that makes a difference. But let's try it here. Visibility, you know, how thick is the fog? I'm going to go with, let's just go with like about a mile, about 6,000 feet, right? And let's just be flying this way, just in case it's difficult to see the land. And I'm actually going to drop the altitude down to, like, I don't know, 900 feet. Again, because the A10 actually has three-dimensional waypoints that are displayed as 3D, which is kind of unique, I think, in DCS, because almost every other aircraft shows it as a 2D point, unless you view it as a, you know, you slew a waypoint as a targeting, then you'll see this dot hovering. Oh, it won't appear like it'll be hovering. It'll appear like the waypoint is slipping off your screen when it's, you know, it's because it's in the air, not on the ground. But in any case, here we go. So rain on. Let's just go full power. Oh, I hate this scorpion thing. That little box it leaves on your display. So diving down 20 degree. and making our way towards the land. So the fog here looks great. This here, but let's just zoom the view out. This looks great. You know, we're in the soup here. This is typical, you're British. There we go, 3.5. Still descending. Tell you what, it is very, gives you the, oh, I'm descending down and I can't see jack all. I think this here, we're still over, no, we are now over the land. Great, so as we roll right, okay, perfect, here we go. And so now we're in the fog versus the clouds, but I'm just going to pause it there. Does anybody see a problem with this? Like, at all? Like, does anything about this look maybe not 100%? And I'll tell you what's going on. The fog is covering where I am and below. So as I look down, the ground, as best I can tell here, looks perfect, right? It's covered in fog. But as I go from where I am and look upwards, the sky is like a picture, all right? It's a three-dimensional volumetric cloud picture, but it's a picture, and there is no fog. You know, so I can view a cloud in the distance there that's like 10 miles away or whatever it is, without zero or nothing obscuring it. But yet, if I look down just like a couple of thousand feet away or whatever it is, I can clearly see that the fog is obscuring my view. And so this here, what they need to do is, and again, don't ask me how to do it from a technical standpoint, they need to make the fog apply when you look up as well as looking down. And you can see it's all based on where the horizon is there. And so let's unpause. And you can see if they did that, this would be, as best I can tell, like perfect. And again, flying down low over the Marianas in the fog. Now we're over the sea, so let's swing back round, and you can see here, you know, these minor little pauses and stutters that I was occasionally experiencing on the South Atlantic map, just basically non-existent on this map. And when this map came out, and I'm sure some of you will remember that, the performance on it, for such an overall small map, the performance wasn't great. And I remember saying, oh, that's because we've got new technologies, we're still refining them and whatever. And clearly that's been the case, because it's a lot better now. And it did put a lot of people off it. If you go on the multiplayer list and look, you know, again, ranked by players and look at the most popular maps, you tell me how far you got to go down before you see anybody, or rather a server that's going on the Marianas map. And, you know, again, if it's got more than like 5 or 6 players on, that is unusual. You know, maybe if you catch it on a weekend, or it's a closed private server, you know, where somebody is, you know, one of the groups is doing, you know, a mission over there. But in any case, there we go. Beautiful. And again, as we climb higher, the problems, let's say, with the viewing distance appear to go away. I'm just going to pick up the speed some. Yeah, but still got full power on, yeah. Just going to circle and continue to climb. Seems to be at the limit. I wonder how fast we're going here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15x, I guess, is the speed limit. Okay, let's pause here, just have a little look. So we're above, and this is it. Okay, so we've got all the clouds, and as you see, if we look down between the clouds, the fog is in the way, so that's great. And as you can see, performance-wise, I'm really liking it. I do think the fog glows up a little bit too much, so you see here the bottom of the clouds, which are clearly in shade, are darker grey than the tops of the clouds, which are in direct sunlight. Okay, that makes sense. But then the fog, which is beneath the clouds, you would assume would be very similar in colour, again, because they're in the shade, not in direct sunlight, versus, say, the fog here, which clearly is in direct sunlight. You know, maybe that should be bright white. But again, to have it all a single colour, again, it's a minor thing, but it is something that I saw teased a couple of years ago. So there is that, and again, performance great. And so let's remove this. Got some overspeed warning there. Friendly reminder, smoke is forbidden on the ground and below 500 feet. This could lead to a kick. Okay, so that's a new one. I guess sick of people smoking out the runways. And so here we go on 4K. You can see, you know, I've been, how long have we been going now? Let's have a little look. I've got to look right over on the other bottom of the screen. 3 and a little bit minutes we've been recording. And so, yeah, this was one of the issues, the going up and down, up and down. I did have a go with the helicopter as well. On the Marianas map, my goodness, that looked good. You know, when you're hovering near the trees, we saw that teased a lot on the release trailers. I tried it in several helicopters. It was good. Look at this. I'm just going through the sound barrier there. There's the cone as you're breaking through, and it happens to be right there just on mil power just at the moment. Used to be that other players couldn't actually see when you were doing that. I'm not sure if that's been changed, so that, in other words, as I'm seeing this first person, I'm just sort of breaking through the sound barrier with that, you know, that vapor cone that you see. And would be nice to think now that other players can see that as well, and it wasn't just like a local effect that nobody else can see. Well, still is a few little pauses, so what I'm going to do is just loop over and head back over this same bit of terrain, because now that we've loaded it, in theory, should be smooth, right? We've been here for 5 minutes, and again, it could always be, if we see here on the multiplayer thing, that as new players are connecting and picking an aircraft that we've not yet loaded, that there could be little sort of micro stutters there as well. We would expect those to disappear entirely once you've played DCS 2.9 and either you've gone through every aircraft or you've been on a server where others have done the same. Taking a look at the graphics card there, you can see it's making good use of the resources. Actually, I'm surprised how little demand there is on the 4090, considering that I'm recording this in 4K and I'm not using any sort of gadget to do it. It's just the graphics cards, you know, it's doing the whole thing. I'm surprised it's using so little resources on the graphics card to make the recording in 4K. I would have thought that the, you know, the video encoder side of it would have been a little more pressed. For those wondering, that's why when you record videos these days or do live streaming these days, it doesn't have an impact on the frame rate quite the way it did. Unless, of course, you're trying to use it on a slow drive or a drive that's very full. As you can see, now that we've been here for a few minutes, all the stutters have disappeared. So now I'm going to just try going up and down, because if you recall, that was a huge complaint of mine, and a complaint that was just for ever since, well, I don't know, years. Let me just say years. I don't want to put an exact time on it, because once you know, when I very first got the 4090, when it came out and I did that review and was sort of blown away by the performance, if you recall, there was one thing that on the regular was causing these stutters, and it was when we was changing height. And so far, I have to say, I'm looking for them. And again, it's a huge part of you know, quality of life for these micro stutters. For those people thinking, well, look, you've got these beautiful frame rates. How can you complain if every couple of minutes it sort of drops out for a second or so? Because it not only does it ruin the immersion, but if you're in a combat tactical type situation where, you know, things are heating up, right? You've got the RWR going, you've got missile coming in from here, there's another bad guy over there. You're trying to keep your eye on the SAM site or the AAA that's over on the other side. Like, when all of that's going on and the game pauses for like half a second or a second, it's an eternity. I take my eyes off for 1 second. And again, we are on the AO server here. Do you know, there was this, I don't know who this is, right? every time, or what feels like every time I come on the AO server, which is not very often, there is somebody in the Russian, either the Su-27 or the MiG-29, always. And they're always doing these weird... he messed up there, didn't he? It's Serg66, so a shout out there to Serg66. Sorry, I am to capture you, not in your best light. And so let's conclude the video with a multiplayer test. So again, everything here maxed out. DLSS is set to quality. Everything is cranked up apart from, again, Ansio's, you know, the 3 or 4 settings that I've explained. And so what we're going to do is come over to multiplayer. I'm just going to rank by, again, players, and we'll go ahead and pick, for no other reason... Oh, it's full, unfortunately. The 60-player server is full, the Cold War campaign. I'm really pleased to see that, you know, the Cold War stuff really did take off. We've got Growling Signwider's server here, Operation Urban Thunder, should I say, 57 out of 69. It's been on the go for an hour. This is great, okay? And this... By the way, this is a final test. We've flown around this map with fewer players. We've flown around, single player. We've been able to assess there are no stutters. I want to come in post and clarify that the stutters only seem to take place on certain maps, and then only in the first 3 to 4 minutes after loading. And so just want to make that point clear. Not all maps suffers from stutters, and those that do is in the first few minutes only. I then have the bright idea to figure, well, if I show the scoreboard and that scoreboard has any kind of update going on, then we know either a new player joined or an existing player left, or somebody was killed or shot down or respawned, and so on and so forth. And I was hoping to see if there was a correlation between the so-called stutters or the lag spikes and one of these player updates. Let's take a look. Yeah, there's a lot of players, so we're not necessarily going to catch it. Pause. Yeah, there was an update. See that? The whole score list updated. Pause. Update. See that? Pause. Another update. Pause. Update. Pause. Scroll down. Smooth for a while. There was an update there. Perhaps somebody shot down. There was a pause. There was an update. See? Pause, there was an update. So I think with that, we've conclusively proven that the stutters are directly related to multiplayer issues, but that without that side of things, that the game runs perfectly smoothly. So, there are no stutters when this is not happening. What I want to do now is just make a mission that is really complicated and see what happens with the frame rates there. Because again, when there's lots of different radar signals from SAM sites, I think generally speaking, that also confused the issue. So let's just pop ourselves in and we'll go for the F-16 this time, player, and we'll start ourselves at 36,000 feet going, I don't know, Mach 1.4 would be a decent start. And let's just go for it. And then what I'm going to do is, in fact, what we can do is create a template from the Russian side, and I'm going to go with SA9. Let's go for a SAM2, and we'll plop one here, and I'm just going to put a load down. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Put one, I don't know, there. It doesn't really matter if it's in a suitable position or not. What matters is there's multiple overlapping radars here. And so what we got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We basically got 12 fully comprehensive SA2Z. If we zoom in, we see each one of these groups is made up of, I'm not going to waste your time counting, but we've got well over 100 SAM site units on the map. So let's play. Whether they're radars, missile launchers, power things, the resupply trucks, doesn't really matter, but it's the full thing. And so this will be a good opportunity to see, first off, what's the frames like, and then secondly, as we go up and down. So there we go. So the SAM sites are all there showing, And as you can see, pretty much straight away, you know, the game loaded without problems. Frame rate wise, well, as you can see, basically perfect. And so what I'm going to do now is speed up time. There we go, so we can hear the RWR a little bit. Alright, missile launch, great. And again, as I'm changing the time, but again, I'm not doing that on the video editor. I'm doing that within DCS, you know, Control Z, Alt Z. And you can see here, missiles launching. We've got loads of overlapping radar signals. I'm going low. Here I'm going high. I'm changing height. Everything maxed out. And almost no lag. And again, I'm recording this in 4K. Obviously playing it in 4K. And again, just for those to prove, here we go. Here are my settings. So everything is set as high as it will go. So let's resume. And again, the overlay there showing what the graphics card is doing. And again, it still blows me away why the video encoding section of it is so low when I'm, you know, like recording this live 60 frames. Now there was a lag. Unfortunately, I compressed time just as it happened. That was one of the first ones I've noticed. Altitude. Gotta say, man, these... whatever that shadow effect is, where they somehow blur the shadows, looks really, really good. Like here, look at the shadows there to the left. That very smooth, beautiful, graduated shadow effect looks perfect. Now, there was a little bit of a stutter there. It was like... the frame rate dropped. It wasn't a stutter in the traditional sense where it pauses for like half a second. But the frame rates did drop a little. Let's go up again. And again, by the way, those wondering the heads-up display, don't look at the heads-up display for the frame rate. It is, you know, the frame rate on the heads-up display isn't 60 frames a second. That's, you know, that's an accurate sort of depiction of it. And again, as I'm changing height here from low to high, put the afterburners on, you can see low down, perfect, coming up, rolling it off. Just wow, I'm blown away. DCS, I mean, it's come on leaps and bounds anyway. We could have said that a year ago. It really, really has. And again, this is someone from me who's critical as and when there needs to be criticism. And if you want to see me being critical, you know, I've had a post deleted off the DCS forum when I was talking about the supercarrier, and that it was, you know, in my opinion, an example of... because you got to realize the supercarrier came out at a time where there was no end of problems with DCS. Like, it was so buggy and unplayable. The whole community was, you know, basically voicing their displeasure about it, you know, apart from the usual suspects, but everybody else was. The supercarrier came out and it was like, oh, look at this shiny toy, and people were like, we don't care about the shiny toy, everything's terrible. And basically it's as if Eagle Dynamics listened and so, okay, well, we'll release the supercarrier, and you know, very little's been done. I know they keep saying, oh, we're going to be doing this, that, the other, but it really is like an example of a lowest priority module they've ever released. And in a way, I'm glad. You know, if you had the choice between, well, you can fix the buggy DCS, or we can put more work in on the supercarrier, which would you prefer? I absolutely agree with their decisions. So while that may sound like a bit of a backhanded compliment, it is nonetheless. Still, look, there's this weird sort of effect with shadows going on as I turn my head and move it up and down. It's not always happening, but you can see there it sort of happens sometimes, and different angles, heights and whatnot seems to affect that in different ways. But overall, man, wow. I think if you do have a 4090 RTX or anything like it, you'll be pleased. Obviously, I can't say how this will impact on VR. I can only guess it would be. I've got the old Oculus Rift 2. I just don't fly VR enough to justify buying a new one. And so I hope you enjoyed that video there. And until next time from here on Fox 3 Simulations channel, take care and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. See ya. Ta-ra.